before we get stuck into things, I'd love just who you are. Tell me about work, family, everything.
Yep, absolutely. That's a lot. Um, but excited to be here and thank you guys for the opportunity to speak about my journey. And thanks to my coach, Sita, for always being there, having my back. It's been a whirlwind of a journey. We've been on it together for 2.5 years. So it feels like I have a sister overseas now, which is really cool. So as you guys all know, my name's Puja Shah, one of the many Puja Shahs on KMAC. So it gets a little confusing. And I am a mom of three girls. I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, almost five, and a 3-year-old. A husband, and we live in New Jersey. I'm a pharmacist by training, and I work for a pharmaceutical company as a global marketing lead. So very demanding career, a very demanding family lifestyle. I truly enjoy spending time with the girls. The past 2.5 years, like just really truly enjoy working out, inspiring others. We love to dance. We often leverage dance as a form of getting our steps in to make it a family affair. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I've been, as I said, been with KMAC for just about 2.5 years, and started in the fat loss phase. I came to into the journey feeling very defeated, because this was now a little over a year after my youngest was one, and I had done many diets in my past. I had done macros actually in my past as well, and it felt like time over time, like you see short success, but I always kind of went back, gaining the weight, feeling like was just feeling like there was never something that was sustainable. And so when I came to KMAC, I still remember my conversation with Kunal. It was literally Thanksgiving weekend. And he was like, "This is the last program you're ever going to do." And I was like, "Well, that sounds a little bit like," I was like, how is he so sure about that?" Right. And it was really funny because that still sticks with me. And so here we are. And I do believe that it's going to be the last program that I do.
Amazing. I absolutely love it. I had a little laugh there when you said you love to dance because there was a little bit of light bullying towards my dance. Yes. There is in fact a video of me that I haven't been able to watch through because it's so terrible. But anyway,
Oh no. As long as you're
Sorry,
moving.
everyone will see it again in the summer.
that's
Yeah, I was
not-
going to say, anyone come to New Jersey Drinks Night, watch D.
I can't wait.
it's so terrible. It's good. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. So your first fat loss phase, as you said, you had some experience tracking macronutrients, and what changed? Like, what was different?
I think what changed was I had somebody actually monitoring the actual macros, right? And so I knew nothing about what it took. Like, what did fat loss actually mean? What happens in the world after fat loss? Like, none of that was knowledge to me. Like, this is all things that I learned while I was on KMAC. Like, I always thought that I had to eat low calories to be skinny. That was always like something that was just ingrained in my mind. Like, society is about being skinny. And so I'd always just like ate very low amounts of food to stay thin. I knew nothing about muscle building. I knew nothing about like really truly tracking macros to like have a profile of like fats, carbs, and proteins to meet my body's needs. I knew none of that. And so I think that's really what has changed for this program for me is that I've learned so much about just the science behind all of the macronutrients. I've learned the science behind muscle build. And I think that as a pharmacist, I feel like that always helps me kind of put the pieces together. And the why behind what I'm doing is what I've learned with Sita. And so I think the fact that she's been able to design a program for me that I can do from home, which was really, really critical for me. And to take the mind, like the thinking out of the macros piece of it was so critical. So, I think all the time before this, I like when I was working, and the kids, like, to get to the gym was very, very difficult. And I always felt like if I left to go to the gym, I was like leaving my kids, I was like picking myself to do something over going and doing something for myself. And that's like, I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's like, how do you put yourself in, first? And I don't think it's like a me versus the kids or anything. And so I had to find, I think what KMAC offered me was like a sustainable solution. And I remember when I met with Kunal, I said, I'm not going to be able to get into the gym. I've done that, and it takes me 15 minutes to drive to the gym, like doing my workout and then coming back another 15 minutes. That's like an hour and a half, maybe more out of my day that I'm taking away just to work out. And it just felt like in all of the things that I have to do in my day to day, I don't have an hour and a half to give to that multiple times a day. I also thought that I had to work out 5 days a week going into this program. And so eating not like very little because I had to be skinny and thinking that I had to work out 5 days a week and thinking that I had to do all of this cardio, that just like more and more load on top of the life that I had to already like keep afloat. And so what completely changed was I learned that I only have to work out 3 days a week because I told Sita that I could only really do 3 days a week. I didn't have to manage my own macros. She basically told me exactly what I had to do from that standpoint. And my husband so kindly built me a gym in the basement. And so we started out with free weights. I literally did most of my first initial fat loss journey with free weights. I didn't really need much more. And then after that, I went to Costco and we bought a squat rack. It was $400. Bought a bar from Amazon, bought some weights from Walmart, and I built myself a home gym. And like that part of it, like the bigger part of the home gym really came towards like the muscle build piece because I really started to push the weights. But I think the fact that with all of those pieces together, I've been able to now like do this from home, feel very comfortable. Like I can basically manage my schedule to say if I have meetings all day, I can do it in the morning or I can do it at night or if I can do it during my lunch break because it's right in the basement. I don't have drive time. I just run downstairs, do my workout as my schedule sees fit. See that sometimes I'm like, hey, I can't do my Monday workout. I'm just gonna push everything by a day. And she's like, perfect, great. Like, and so that offers me the flexibility to do basically anything I want to meet, like, because I know what I need to get done in the week. I know that I have the flexibility to get it done. And so now I just fit it into my day without overly stressing about it, right? Like, I think it's very like, if I had a trainer, it's like, I have to meet my trainer on this day. That's very stressful because the chances of me getting there were like really low. And so I think long answer, but I think those are a few factors of why this KMAC program has been sustainable for me.
So essentially, like being able to lower the barrier to entry in
Yep.
terms of like, okay, we need to do like there's a couple of like bare minimum things that we need to have in place. If we
Yeah.
can get 3 resistance training sessions in, they don't need to be 90 minutes. You can get them done in 45, 50, and it takes out the travel. It takes out like you having to essentially compromise over time with fam or time training that you can essentially do both. Um, how did you like muster up the motivation to train from home?
It's a good question, and I think it was because I found that it was my only solution. Because I didn't think that I didn't have time to go to a gym. I didn't have time to do the personal training. So it felt like it was like my only option. And I had never done it before. I was always in the gym. I was always a group class. Like everything I did was in a group setting, those like HIT classes. And they were a lot of fun, right? Like there's a social aspect to that is a lot of fun. And I think that like working from home, I not only I lose that social aspect of it, but I have to like, it's like I have to trust in myself that I'm able to like get it done. And that's where like the fact that I have to upload my videos during my workouts. Like there's just an accountability piece that I was like, "Oh, I can't skip it because I have to upload my videos and she's going to know that I skipped it." Right. And so it was more of like I didn't really have a choice but to work out at home because that's really my only like sustainable option. And it took me time to get comfortable, right? Because it's like when you're in a gym, sometimes you're like watching other people and you're like, "Ooh, they're like pushing higher weights." Like I was kind of just doing it by myself, wasn't really sure like how to do all the moves. And so that's where like, you see the videos that are in the True Coach app and then your coach is giving you feedback every workout. So it's like, bend a little bit more, like slow things down a little bit more, drop your weights because you could get injured, like all of that guidance. As I saw the feedback that was coming through, I just kind of got more and more comfortable. And then, the other piece that like I felt was really great is you're doing the same workouts over and over and over again. And so it might take like a month or so to get good at what you're doing, but you're not changing anything. You're just pushing yourself on a rep. You're just pushing yourself on the weight. You're improving your form, right? And I think that's really it's like you get your basics. This program is like really about the basics, doing the basics and doing them well and doing them consistently. And so when I figured out how to do the form and I was like, "Ooh, okay, like I got this. I can do this from home." That's where I felt like pretty comfortable. It did take me like a month or two to like get comfortable in the working out from home space, but you do feel like really good because then you start to like push yourself. And I think there's what I also learned on this program is there's a difference between working out and training. Working out is you're like pick a few exercises that you want to do, and training is you have the same exercises that you consistently are doing and pushing yourself on those. And so I think the program, we're not working out on this program. We're actually training on this program. We're training our bodies to do different things and look fundamentally different. And I think that is something that I have learned through the course of KMAC. So that's been really exciting for me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think kind of training to me is like exercise with a purpose behind
Yeah.
it, as opposed to just getting your heart rate up, getting a little bit sweaty and things like that. I've heard you speak before about how you managed training at home alongside also family life and your kids becoming accustomed to seeing you training and things like that. It'd be good to hear you dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, no, happy to. It's funny that you say that because I've actually probably posted a few videos of my kids. I have back in the day when I used to lift like 2.5 pounds, they're still in my basement for a reminder of where I started. But now my little ones will go in and they'll pick up those weights and they'll start to like squat with them. And, it's like for them, it's like really fun. And I think at one point I was like I wouldn't take them down to my gym because it was like my own sanctuary. And I was like, I don't need anybody else in my space. This is mommy time. And then I like learned, I was like, okay, this is not sustainable because sometimes the kids are going to wake up early and I'm going to be in the gym. And so I would just bring them down and they're like, "Ooh, mommy, like, can we try? Can we try?" And I'm like, I basically had to shift my mindset where I did not grow up watching my parents work out like this. And it was just a very different culture. And now my kids get, like all girls, by the way, get to watch their mom crush it in the gym. So they're watching me have something that I'm very interested in. They're watching me grow myself and be better myself. And they're watching me like super strong. And so they're like, I let them come downstairs. I've built like a little play area in the basement because my kids are still really young. So sometimes they'll play in their play area. Sometimes they'll come and, try to pick up a few weights and they'll pick up a small plate. Like I have those micro weights and they'll pick up a micro weight and they'll be like, "Mommy, I'm so strong." And I'm like, "You are strong." And I just love that my girls are like equating themselves to strength. Because I think that as society will throw so much at them and there's like so many perspectives on weight and body images and all of that stuff, boys and girls alike, right? And I think that for them to feel very like they're already saying that they're strong, like it makes me so happy that that's the words that are coming out of their mouth versus anything else. And so I think while I was a little bit hesitant in the beginning, because it's like, oh, they're like, mommy cares about her weight so much, or mommy cares about the way that she looks so much. Like, I obviously don't want them to think that I'm so focused on my image. And I think in the first like fat loss phase, it does feel like that a little bit because you are so fixated on the scale and like your numbers coming down. So it could kind of feel like that. But I think if you take the totality of my journey, now where it's gone from the fat loss to the muscle build, like, and I think that their minds, like, I've been able to teach them so much more through the journey about strength, fueling your body with the right foods. We eat dessert together pretty much every night. Like, there's not one night that they don't see mommy eating ice cream or a popsicle or a cookie with them. And that's, I think, so cool because it's like I'm not hiding my carbs from my kids. Like I'm eating everything and they're watching me eat it, which I feel like is only good for them because I think there's so many challenges with kids and food and, you know, not eating because of a perception or a body image that they need to uphold. And so I just feel like all of it just ties together for me.
Yeah, I think it's such an incredibly important point where the goal is like to portray like strength and confidence, and it's not solely being physique oriented.
Yeah.
Like there it is inevitable. There is periods where like if you're in a fat loss phase and you are being cognizant of the amount of calories that you're consuming, like but if you get your fat loss finished, then it's done. Like
Yeah.
yes, you might have to give like 6 months or whatever it is towards fat loss, but once it's finished for life, and then you get to show the behaviors that are just like healthy living. So
Yeah.
this is what like healthy behaviors look like. And yeah, I think like that's something I'll always speak with clients about. Is like your physique. Yes, it's somewhat important, but it's like out of your value structure, it should be a very, very small piece of your pie.
Yeah, it's so funny that you're saying this because I say this, I get a lot of questions on like my journey on Instagram and everything. And I always say that fat loss is your key to freedom for the rest of your life. Like if you complete fat loss and then you like enter this muscle build journey, man, you unload and like unleash so many opportunities from like a freedom of food, a freedom flexibility in your workouts. Like it is a tough, like, and everybody's going to have a very different timeline for their fat loss journey. And, you know, I don't think nobody should compare timelines for fat loss journey. But what I will say is that once your fat loss is finished, you can actually start training your muscle. And like then that's when you start to build muscle. Because if you build muscle while you're like you carrying all this fat, you just look bulky and you're just going to feel like you're just kind of like in this, like you're never going to feel like it makes sense for you to do the build part. But I think so you do have to get to like a certain fat loss point, which is different for everybody, which then you start to build. And then you feel your calories will go up because you're basically now able to, you need to fuel the gym. And so your calories are going up, you're fueling your workouts, you're building more muscle, and you're just going to be able to like slowly increase your macros, you know, more and more as you're building more muscle. And again, that's just freedom for me. It's honestly, I'm seeing like this build part of my journey as freedom. And I'm actually able to eat like what I want when I want it. I don't feel like restricted. I don't feel like guilt. I eat out like now more like obviously very like within limits, right? And I still follow the principles that I learned in fat loss, but I just don't have a sense of guilt. I used to have a lot of guilt eating out because I'm like before K-Mac journey, like just always guilt of eating out. I would always like eat nothing the days that I would have to eat out because I'm like, I'm gonna eat out, right? And I don't do that anymore. Like I kind of live my life and I feel very free after this like fat loss journey. And fat loss is tough. Don't get me wrong. It is a tough piece, but it is it could be, it's like literally the smallest part of the journey, right? So it's like if you can buckle in, get your fat loss done, and then you and your coach work together and do the build part because that's where the fun part is, I think. But
100%. So on that part, obviously a lot of people here will be thinking about fat loss finishing up, obviously thinking, okay, what's going to be next? And obviously
Yeah.
talked about muscle building. You've been there for, over a year now. And obviously you're thinking ahead to shoot number two. Naturally, there's always that hesitation of, I think you've said it multiple times in the past, we're almost trained like from a culture perspective, just society, to see that trend, downwards from a scale perspective. So to then see it go up in the opposite direction, how did you sort of tackle that? How did you find that? Because that in itself is a whole new battle that I know we've obviously gone through together, and I'm sure a lot of clients will, be thinking about the same. What's next post that
Yeah.
loss?
That's a really good question. And it is, I will tell you, it is, it really messes with your mind. That initial like muscle build journey, it definitely messed with my head because the scale started to go up. And I, in my mind, was like, I just lost 40 pounds. Like, how am I getting comfortable with the fact that now my scale is going in the wrong direction? And it was very stressful. And what I would do is I would send Sita like SOS messages every week. My scale would go up. And she's like, every week it was, you're great. You're not gaining too much. We're gaining the right amount. And I think that in my mind was the secret where, yes, I had my moments of freak out. I would turn to Sita, like actually way more often in this part of my journey because of the freak out moments than I did in the fat loss part. So I kind of leaned on her a lot more. And I think what was really important was it wasn't about gaining the weight. It was about how much weight I was gaining in a certain amount of time. So I don't think anybody on this call is saying, hey, go finish your fat loss and it's cool, go gain 10 pounds tomorrow. Like if you gain that 10 pounds back in a month, we're probably not doing the right thing. And so I think that's where like your coach and, the client will basically design what makes sense and how much you should gain kind of month over month in the build journey. Because at that stage, you're absolutely going to gain a little bit more fat back. It's the nature of the journey. And it's funny because I remember Kunal and Sita both were like, just embrace the fluff. And I was like, what? Like, what does that even mean? And it's like a little bit daunting because you're like, I was heavy and now I got really skinny and now I'm getting fluffy again, right? So like you can imagine it's like a little bit stressful. And they were just like, just embrace the fluff because you're getting stronger in the gym. You're doing the right things. You're not gaining too fast. You're gaining like at the right rate. It's all about your rate of gain. And so I think that all, again, it's just constant discussions with your coach to make sure you're doing it the right way. And I think the one thing is like, I felt like maybe 6 or 7 months in, I was like, ooh, I think we need a cut because I got a little bit nervous. And then I think, see that you and I had a conversation, you were like, well, if you cut too early, you're basically going to like, you're basically going to make and the build part of it much harder because you're going to kind of go backwards. Every time you cut, you're going to lose a little bit of muscle. And so I was like, fine, let's stick with it. You start to buy clothes that just like make you look nice, right? Like it's like you start to dress the way that you start to look. And I think you get used to it. I think the other piece that I recognized was that my muscle was going to different places. Like I genetically felt like I carried weight more in my arms and in my midsection. Um, I don't feel like as when I got to like my final days on muscle build before the mini cut that we did in January, I don't feel like my arms looked as big. Like if you look at my pictures, my arms looked very different at the same weight on the way down versus the way up. And I think that's also a little bit of a trick that I would like. We take pictures every week. Look at your pictures and look at your like on the way down, what you look like versus on the way up, what you look like, because your body is just fundamentally looking very different. And I think that is what is known as like body, like recomposition change, right? Like you're changing your recomposition of your body. And I only kind of started to notice and appreciate that as I started to look at my pictures. And I've posted about it a few times to see like, wow, like it's not in my love handles or in my arms. It's actually, I don't even know where it is because it's not in those spots. So I'm like, I don't really see it. It's just, it's there because the scale's telling me it's there, but it's not where I don't like it to be, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. And it's like the fact that like muscle is so much more dense. It's so much more dense that even when you
Yeah.
gains, if when you gain scale weight back, but you're resistance training and you're eating your high protein diet, all of the muscle building stuff, like
Yeah.
the end body composition is completely different, and it can be really cool to actually see you back at a similar body weight and looking completely different.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that you probably notice yourself as well is like your confidence in yourself to get you back a bit leaner when you want. So let's say, for example, if you've a wedding coming, it's just like, I know I have the skill set there that I can dive for a little bit and I can pull myself back down into a position that I'm more comfortable with because
Yep.
you've built the skills, you've built the identity, and you know you have the confidence to get yourself to where you want to be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my mini cut was because I told Sita that I wanted to look lean for my 40th birthday trip that we just took in February. And she was like, got it. We set a very short window of time. She's like, we're going to peel it off as much as we can, where we're not like harming our muscle build results, but also getting you to a point where you feel comfortable with what you look like in a bikini. And we were like, perfect. And we found that right balance. And that's the trick. It's like, you're never going to have to peel off, like I should say, I will never have to peel off 40 pounds again. I will always have to peel off, maybe 15, maybe 10, max, maybe 20 at this stage. But I think that's the cool part. Like you're never going to have to peel off the amount that you started at, which is actually something that I only learned when I started this mini cut with Sita back in December of 2024 into January of this year, which I was like, wow, that was quick. That was easy. You're like, this is great.
Sure. Quick question on that. How was that trip? I hope you enjoyed yourself, of course. And then also just in terms of travel throughout your journey, how did you personally go about managing that?
The trip was amazing. I feel like travel is generally pretty complicated, right? Because you're just like, you're eating out, you're at a hotel, and I'm laughing because I take Ziploc bags of a lot of different things with me. And so more often than not, I'm usually carrying my protein with me because it's very difficult to always find like we went to Aruba. And so like, am I going to find high protein foods everywhere around Aruba? Probably not. And so like you kind of are you kind of know where you're going to be able to find protein. You kind of know where you're not going to, like if I was going to Texas, I know I can go to a Walmart next door and like find some stuff, right? I know if I go to Aruba, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. So what I do in those instances is I pack like oatmeal. This is actually like one of my tricks. You can buy all those like oatmeal packs with protein in them. They're kind of expensive. So I just get like Ziploc bags. I do some oatmeal in there and I throw in a scoop of protein powder. And because the protein powder is like sweetened, I will literally like throw in water into that. It kind of sounds disgusting. It's not that bad, especially on like the travel pinches. If you want milk, you could throw milk in, but I try to save all my fat as much as I can for the tail end of like my dinners and stuff. And it's like I'm literally starting my day off with a bowl of oatmeal that's like it's cold oats essentially with protein powder in it. So I'm walking out of the morning with like 30 grams of protein. I often will check in my Fairlife shakes with me in like my bag. So I bring one for each day. So I have a shake for the afternoon. Sometimes if the kids are having like lunch, like I had a piece of their quesadilla, like I had some of their fries, like was totally good. So it was like a shake with like picking at what the kids were eating. And I only pick on vacations, not at home. And then for dinner, I felt so free. Like, and sometimes I'll bring like the edamame beans or something like, right, like a little snack to snack on through. And then for dinner, literally would just eat what, like I had my pasta, I had my, always try to go protein forward. I had my glass of, I had my wine, I had my margarita, like, and you just feel like you're not having to like overly restrict yourself when you've been so tightened up through the day. So I think that's kind of how I usually tackle my trips.
No, I love that. I love the morning breakfast idea as well. It's not something I've thought of before, but I might even use that myself, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really quick and you know that it's like with you, right? Like you don't have to like go hunting for it. It takes up literally like it's one Ziploc filled, like a one large Ziploc filled with like six, 7 bags of mini Ziplocs. And you just dump it in those hotel bottles or, hotel glasses and then you're ready to go.
I respect it so much. You could
Yeah.
bring it to the moon. You could bring it to the moon as well if you want.
I was going to mention you brought up an interesting point about picking at kids' food. And I know that's something that some of my clients who are mums and things like that struggle with. Is that something you've ever struggled with at home? And then also, I think that leads nicely into Neha's question as well, just around balancing family meals, things like that, as opposed to having to cook individual dishes.
Yep. It's a good question. So I actually was um, I would always pick. Like my pre-KMAC life was continuously eating whatever they didn't finish. I think it's an interesting culture, right? Like you have to finish your plate. Like they can't waste food. And so I would be like, oh, well, there's 4 chicken nuggets. I'll eat all of them. Because, like one of them is going to leave at least one. So that's three right there. And so I would always pick. And it was just, that's where I learned that picking was probably like adding up all of the pickings that I ate a day was probably a fair amount of calories and probably not the right macros that I should be eating. And so what I did in the beginning was I'd pop a mint gum in my mouth when I was like in the fat loss phase is when you're just like feeling like you need to pick the most because you're just like like you're definitely at a deficit, and I think your body wants to pick while you're in this deficit. And so I would just pop like a piece of gum in my mouth, which was like minty. So it wouldn't really give me like the desire to want to eat their food. I'd also sometimes just make myself a healthy snack before they would eat their meals. So like I'm often like in the corner eating my snack before they eat their meals. So like you're kind of like already have something in your stomach because the hungrier you are, the more you're going to want to pick. And so that was kind of like my little trick during fat loss was always have like a quick mini snack, like a rice cake with like a cheese wedge or something like that that you can have that just like feels like pretty filling because rice cakes are like they're not they're not very calorie dense but like can feel like like filling. So those are some of the tricks that I did to like prevent the picking, but definitely was an avid picker. And then from a meal perspective, I think that's where, so my husband and I actually are on this journey together. He started, I think, like 4 months after I did. And so I think what we do is we plan our proteins often. So I don't necessarily, there's like meal plan can get really complex. So I don't necessarily like do the packaged meals in my fridge because I don't have time for that. It feels like that's more dishes for me to wash. So what I do is like we like literally will make 1,200 grams of ground chicken of like a Mexican flavor. Then I'd make, maybe 1,200 grams of Indian flavored chicken thighs or cute, like, breast or whatever. So we always have the meat or protein piece of our meals prepped either on a Sunday or like we'll do it on a Sunday or Monday. And then the carb piece of it will batch cook like a massive bowl, like we'll batch cook 600 grams of rice. And so like a lot of the stuff is kind of individually batch cooked where we can then say, oh, I want an Asian flavor today, but I want pasta or a noodle, right? So like it's kind of like a mixing and matching of things where, and then sometimes the kids will eat, like if I make the chicken, the kids will eat the chicken and the rice also. And so they've actually started to eat a lot more types of foods that we're eating. So like if we're doing a shrimp, for instance, like we'll make shrimp for them as well. I'll like kind of pull it out before I put the like spice, like the true spices. Like they'll eat like the non-spicy spices, and then before I put the like spicy stuff in, I'll just pull theirs out because they start like they really do now start to eat the way that we eat because they're seeing it. Like my daughter will, like all of them now are like, how many macros are in this? And I'm like, and like Gia will be like, I'm eating a macro meal. And I was like, you are eating a macro meal, right? So like I'll give him a yogurt with granola with fruit in it. And I think that we've really significantly been able to peel out some of those like non-nutritious snacks, right? Like I think like I'm totally fine with my kids eating a Dorito bag here and there, but like those used to be like just in our pantry. And so like we've pulled a lot of that out and we've kind of replaced them with more healthier snack options. And they want like the other day, like every time I make like a salad, I want some. Like it's always like, and I want some. And I'm like, oh, mommy's food's macro and I'll make you another one. Like I'll make it for you. But they've really truly started to like take on our meals as their own, which is nice. But then I also like, listen, I don't always do that. There's also three of them. So like they will also eat the same thing that each other eats. So like we'll have like a batch of like beans made and I'll do like a quesadilla or a taco, right? So like we'll use the beans, but then we'll make different things for them with the beans. So we try to kind of repurpose as much as we can. But at the end of the day, it's not always going to happen, but I think you can like start to like take baby steps towards that direction. Because I think they're young right now, but you know, as they're all a little bit older, like I hope to be all be eating the same way in the next 5, 6 years. But I think them getting exposed to it now really sets us up for success 5, 6 years from now when we can all really truly eat the same food all the time.
100%. So with I actually remember, I think it was maybe 2 months into your journey, you sent me a picture of, I can't remember who, someone was eating eggs and you were like, this is my protein baby, this is my vegetable baby. And I remember we used to nickname the kids and
Yeah.
that's how we kind of, got into it. And that's how they obviously started to learn those habits. Like you said, it's baby steps. So if there's like a mom on here who's like very new into their journey and they're like, okay, but I don't know how to get there. I see you doing this and we're doing it right now. But how did you get there? You said, obviously baby steps, but what would you recommend in terms of incorporating it? Whether it's, the dinners, because we always say, breakfast and lunch is typically quick on the go. You're not really thinking too much about it, whereas dinner's very heavily family focused. And obviously you've got three girls. You want to be able to bring them up without the diet culture that we've also, grown up in, especially with South Asians, it's very much, there's a lot of toxicity around the way, we see food. You see it as a love language. You have to eat, but then if you eat too much, it's, a problem. So how would you, if the mom messaged you and be like, how do I do this? What would you say?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's like, I don't think there's one answer to this one, right? But like the way that I've done it is we'll just put it in their plate, like to get them to eat, like exposed to it, because you're not gonna like even when they're babies, I did all these like food trainings with them, and it was like you have to expose somebody potentially 30 times for them to like actually eat it. So it's like there's like for like baby led weaning and stuff. So like you could put broccoli in front of them and they won't eat it. Broccoli in front of them, they won't eat it. One day they're going to eat it. And I think that's kind of what we do. So it's like, and we eat it in front of them too. So like, did they ask for a bite the first week? No. Did they ask for the bite the second week? No. Third week? Yeah. Oh, mommy, can I try that? And that's when I start to know, like, how is it that are they liking it? And so then we start to like, whatever we tried, like whatever I was eating, then that next week I'll put it on their plate and say, okay, let's see if they eat it. And sometimes they don't eat it. Sometimes they do eat it. We don't really like, yes, we have to get them to eat, but we're trying very hard to not be like, you have to finish your plate, because that's how we grew up. And so it's like, if your tummy is full, your tummy is full. And I think that becomes easier with like the 8, 9-year-olds because they start to understand their bodies a little bit more. I think my toddlers are just very much into like playing while they eat. So it's like, that's a little bit more challenging where we actually do have to kind of sit down and say, all right, you kind of have to sit down and eat your meals. And so it's a learning process and it's going to change by age. But I think the biggest thing is just exposure. Like even like my kids, I had put sushi in front of Gia like maybe 3, 4 times. She never ate it. We went to Aruba, she ate sushi. And now we're eating sushi as a family, right? So it's like it's like it's all about the exposure and just a little bit, right? And eat it in front of them so that they're seeing you eat it and they're seeing like they're like little sponges and they're very curious little sponges. So it's like the more they see you do it, the more they're gonna want to mimic you. They're like very, it's like a mimicry is so, especially in our household, like they always want to do what I do. They want to wear what I want to wear. A lot of crop tops and workout outfits in my kids' wardrobes now. But I think I don't know if that like if there's more that you want on that one, but I think that's really kind of how I found it to be. Like it's not going to be like, hey, you're going to walk out of this call and we're all going to be eating the same family meals. Like we try for like 2 to 3 days. I make chole and like we all eat chole. We all have like a certain number of meals that we know are foolproof family meals, right? Chole is one of them, chicken curry is one of them, meatballs is one of them, and those are macroed and everybody eats them and we all feel good about it. Then the non foolproof meals, we just do a little bit of like trial and error with them. So find your foolproof meals that you know are macro friendly, that you know everybody likes, and eat like I eat the same thing like every day because it just makes it easier to do do it that way. And then after you find your foolproof meals, start to incorporate. And even if you're starting out like 4 days a week as eating like 3 days a week, any days a week as like family meals, that's only going to get more from there. You're never going to go less from your baseline.
So something that has popped up along the way is this like this focus on like self-love and self-compassion that are like independent of body composition. And this is something that I'll discuss frequently with clients. It's like, if we couldn't change your body composition, what else would you change? And it gives you a bit of an insight into other areas of your life to work on. So I'd love to know just like some of the things that you did yourself to work on that kind of self-compassion side of things.
It's a good question. I think that women in particular go through a lot of like just struggle. And I think after my kids, like that postpartum phase is just really, really, really challenging. You feel very alone. Even despite like so many people trying to be there for me, like you just feel like it's you versus the universe and your kid. And I think for me, like I had to I had to give myself permission to like care about myself. Right. And I think it took time because you always feel like you're taking away from somebody else that needs you when you do that. And so like, it's like, how do I emotionally like level set? Like where I do now, like self-care Sundays where I'll like do a mask for myself and like, just like take some time to do that. I found that like with the kids, it was like, I lost touch with my friends, right? Like, and I realized like how important my friendships were to me. And it's really, really, really easy to like give up on all of that stuff when you're in the thick of trying to raise your kids, trying to eat healthy, trying to build your career. Like there's a lot of expectations in society. And so it's easy to like put aside the things that really fuel us. And so I've made it like, and I talk to my family to say like, mommy needs to spend time with her friends. Like mommy needs to do these things for mommy. And the other day, my daughter was like, well, why don't you take me? And like, I went out with a friend of mine. She's like, well, why don't you take me? And I don't lie to them. Like, I really just like kind of tell them, I said, do you enjoy spending time with your friends? And she's like, yeah. I was like, well, mommy loves to spend time with her friends too. And so I think I've been more honest with my kids about my needs versus just like doing it behind their back or like doing it while they sleep, right? Like, it's very easy to be like, they go to bed at 7, I'm going to go out at 7:30. Like, could I do that? Sure. But does that teach them anything? Probably not, right? So like I'm trying to incorporate pulling the things that I loved back into my life slowly. Like you're not going to be able to do it all in a day. And pulling that back in, but also being very transparent with the family that these are things that matter to me. So yeah, it's working nicely because now they're starting to like see that mommy does do and care for herself. Because that's really important. Because if my battery isn't charged, it's never going to be 100%. let's say, let's call it 70%. If my battery isn't at 70%, I can't really do anything for anybody else.
I think
No, so I just wanted to dive in a little bit more on your support circle as well. So obviously, you've got Arpan, Seats, your girls as well. Sound like they're your biggest fans. So how did you find that was important throughout both aspects of your journey? So in terms of fat loss, and then how did that change when it came to muscle building as well? And then just to follow on from that, Hamali added. Did you get any comments during muscle building from friends and family who didn't necessarily understand it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think that in the fat loss, it's a lot of like, oh my God, you look so skinny, like eat more. Like I go to parties and they're like, oh my God, don't like today is the day to eat carbs. Like so much of that. Like put your diet food away for the day. Like I'm sure you guys have all heard. Like when people call my food diet food, it just drives me bonkers because I'm like, this is not diet food. This is just food that you should be eating. And so I got a lot of that on like the fat loss journey. And I always use this mentality of being like, guys, like, this is not diet. Like in the beginning, I felt like, oh my God, I have to hide what I'm like. I would bring my food to things sometimes because I was like, I had such a strict goal that I needed to get to and I wouldn't eat. And now I like felt like towards the tail end, I felt kind of comfortable being like, you know what, guys, like I'm on a program, I'm doing what's right for my body. And like, and I also used it as an opportunity to say like and it comes from the South Asian parents usually. And I would also educate them to say like, we eat a lot of heavy carb and heavy fat food, which is not actually good for like your long-term sustainability. And I would say like the fountain of youth is muscle. Like there is no fountain of youth. Like muscle is really what you need. And so you guys eating this carbs and fat, not really going to get you anywhere. Like incorporate. So I almost like used it I turned it around and like would start like educating them on the beauty of protein and the value of protein and the value of muscle and all of that stuff. And you almost like they kind of walk away and they're like, all right, yeah, I see what she's doing. But it took me like some time to like get there because the comments are tough. I also would tell people, I'm like, listen, I'd rather be the oldest person at the gym than the youngest person in the nursing home. So I need to like feel good and like feel good about my body and like really, take care of myself now because it only gets harder as I get older. And I started to become very transparent with these conversations. Now let's fast forward to muscle build. Oh my God, like you're lifting way too much weight. You're gonna look so bulky. I'm like, first of all, you're never gonna make anybody happy. Like you're always like you always feel like whatever you're doing is just like somebody's gonna have comments on it. And you kind of just have to like shut it out, like doesn't matter because I think you just have to tell yourself that clearly this program has shown results. People are doing it and people look incredible. They feel incredible. There's a strong community around it. And so you almost have to like come back to that and educate people to say, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to build muscle so that when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old, I can lift a suitcase over my head. And like the basic things in life that they in their mind know that are issues as people age. I almost like kind of just turn it back on them to say like these are the things that I want to be able to do by myself. And it actually surprisingly works so well because I take it out of like the food and the workouts and I pull it back into like why am I really doing this? Like so I can have the muscle to sustain the longevity of my life. And that has gone over really well so that like people in my family that have never worked out are now working out. My parents are working, like they've generally been pretty good, but like now they're like really lifting weights. They use an oil sprayer at home because they need to cut out fat, right? So it's like small changes, even in their life, are going to make an impact. And so the comments will come. I will tell you, you will never, ever, ever make anybody happy. Like it is just, that is just life, I think. And people, I think the other thing that I learned is like when somebody is insecure about themselves, they will be the first person to comment. And You have to tell yourself. And I used to come to Sita a lot and be like, oh my God, this person said this. And she would be like, well, just don't remember, like, and we had a lot of chats about this. And it's their insecurities that are causing the comments coming to you. So be very confident in what you're doing, be confident in your why, and don't let somebody else's insecurities bring you down ever, because your journey, you're on your own journey. And I think you're here because you want to be, and I think you want to better yourself. And there's no reason for anybody's comments to like bring you down. So
100%. I think what you said there about your environment, I think that is probably one of the biggest factors. Obviously, you can do all the cardio, you can do all the steps, you can be in a calorie deficit, but your environment is obviously going to dictate a lot of, your progress. And I think it would be great to obviously talk about, when you first started, you didn't really know anyone in the gym. You knew like an odd person here or there, three mutuals. Whereas now I feel like you've almost built like a mini community within New Jersey. Obviously you've connected with a lot of people. Obviously, shout out Tejal, who's on this call, as I can see. And I think it'd be great to be like, how have you been able to, lean on the community? Because it's not just about, your coach, me supporting you through this journey. There's obviously other aspects, up and the kids, but also the community and how people can utilize that a lot more.
yeah, the community is incredible. I think in this day and age, there is so much negativity in this world globally. I don't care where you are. You turn on the news, you turn on Instagram, there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of just bad stuff. And I find that this community is a place that I will always find positivity and happiness. Like, it doesn't matter if I know you or don't know you, there is just positivity oozing from all aspects. It's a group of people that are here to better themselves. And I just love that about this entire space. I have more like Instagram like relationships now through all of these women that reach out to me. And it's just so incredible because it's like always bringing people up and helping people through. And so I've turned to this community often. I will give you one example. My water bottle that you see here, I sucked at drinking water. It was like the one part of this journey that I could not get right. And Tejal, I talked to her about it and she was like, so Tejal and I have, she was actually my inspiration to start KMAC. I didn't even know her when I started KMAC. And then we met in New Jersey, like we really connected in New Jersey when you guys were here. So like even my relationship with Tejal has built over the past close to a year. I told her, I was like, oh man, the water is like where I'm struggling. She Amazoned me a bottle, like this beautiful water bottle, and is like, I'm going to check in on your water intake. And so like lean on your community, tell them where you're struggling, like be very honest and open about like where you're struggling, because like somebody may be struggling with the same thing and you can kind of work through it together. Somebody may have already overcome that struggle and they can give you some tips, or that person that you kind of open up to could be facing that in their future journey, and maybe they can know that it's a struggle that could come their way. And so lean on your community. I've made so many friends. It's so funny. Like my husband threw me a birthday celebration and I had a group of friends there, and I had friends that I've known since I was like 16, friends that I've known through college. And then I had Tejal and Preeti there, and I'm like, man, like I've only known them for like such a short period of time in my life, but like the impact and influence that they've had on my life is just astronomical. And it's just like really cool because I can say that about so many people in this community. And so I honestly, it's just like another like notch in the belt of like why this just is such a great program. And you can literally do what you want, just be honest about your goals, and you can turn to anybody in this community and they will be there for you because somebody or another has gone through what you're going through probably.
So good. So good. You absolutely smashed it. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm sure everybody absolutely appreciates it because it's absolutely fantastic. I think there is one question coming in.
Yeah.
Sam, could you just read that there?
We've got a couple. One's from Arpan, actually. I'm sure he probably knows the answer to this. How often do you eat dessert ice cream?
Every day, maybe twice a day sometimes.
And then we've also got from Saprit, curious to know where you see yourself going long term in terms of your fitness journey.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I actually so I'm in maintenance right now. We're gonna start another, like we're gonna go back into build. Again, it's very tailored, right? So I have a wedding in May. That Dee was speaking to. I have a wedding in May, so I wanted to look lean for the wedding. So we're gonna just basically maintain up until then, and then we're gonna go back into a build. And then I will likely do a cut and do another shoot to have basically a shoot from 2023 to 2026. And then at the end of like from there, honestly, I don't know where I go from there, but all I know is I will never change the habits that I have built. I will still be working out 3 days a week. I will still be eating macro meals, and I will still be like feeling I all I know is I will be feeling very free from restricted diets beyond this point. Which is honestly like I love to eat, and I don't want to be like I have to, like I never want to restrict that. And so like that's what I can say. I don't know where the journey takes me. All I know is I'm only going to go like more from here, not less from here. So
No, absolutely love that. And yeah, thank you from all of us for your time. It's been really, really nice to hear about your journey. You've had some really nice messages come in as well that I'm sure you'll take some time to have a little look at. But yeah, thank you from all of us.
yeah, and if anybody ever has like a question, feel free, like, feel free to send folks my way. Or, for those clients that are on the call, always reach out to me. I'm very like I get literally like 30 messages a day on build and what like how I do it and what I do. So I'm always just here to chat with folks. I think you're here for a reason. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of the community, the coaches. It's really incredible, and congratulations for you to take your to life into your own hands and make better with that, because this is really incredible.
But we'll leave it
I gotta go to work. I gotta go to work.
Okay, amazing. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Guys, I
Yep.
hope we have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll chat with you all very, very soon. Cheers, guys.
All right. Cheers.